Hey, I'm Russ.
And I'm Steve.
Growing up in the 80s, we were introduced to video games, movies, and technology that made a lasting impression on us and forever enriched our lives.
I think I'm gonna cry.
It's been a fascinating journey to be a part of, one that we constantly treasure.
Higher, booty.
Our goal is simple: share our magical moments of discovery and geek out with lovely folks, just like you.
Achievement unlocked.
So if you crave pixel goodness, memorable moments, and experiences that make your inner child do the happy dance, you've come to the right place.
Let's do this.
Welcome to Joygasm.
Yeah.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to Joygasm, where we talk about video games, movies, and pop culture. My name is Russ, Xbox Live Toaster 360, and joining me is my bald and beautiful brother, Steve, Xbox Live Stevavitch, as we commence episode 40 on this September 30th, 2017. If you have any questions, comments, or just want to show us some love, you can find us on Twitter at JoygasmTV and Facebook.com/JoygasmTV. In addition to iTunes and Android, you can also listen to our podcast on SoundCloud at SoundCloud.com/JoygasmTV, or search Joygasm TV on YouTube or Twitch. And no matter which platform you use to enjoy the show, please drop a...
Please joke about it.
Please choke and totally forget what you're going to say.
Make fun of us.
Please drop a subscription. How about that? A thumbs up or a review. It helps us build awareness, which we appreciate very much. We have some exciting topics to chat about today, which, I don't know, for me, I'm quite giddy. Steve, are you giddy?
I'm quite giddy, that is.
We first, right off the bat, I'm just going to say that other sultry voice you heard was none other than Big Baby Moose, who is here with us, gracing us with his presence.
I don't know if that was a moose sound, but I tried.
It works for me, Mostly I do a lot of grunting and heavy breathing, so yeah, whatever.
That's just because you're a man.
Absolutely. He's a man.
A man.
So first off, the Joygasm site is officially live, and we want to celebrate by actually going through and just talking about it. It's a big deal. Yeah, that was that your little kazoo noise? Do it again. Oh my goodness. Secondly, the Joygasm Patreon page has launched, and we will give you all, you lovely listeners, a tour of that as well. And thirdly, our topic of the day is the SNES purchase experience. But
the SNES.
The SNES. First things first, Steve, how are you?
Russ! Doing great. Here, alive, I'm awake. I feel like a little kid again. I feel like I'm 13 years old.
Yeah. Absolutely. I just looked over and there's SNES Mario Kart playing on the screen, which is bizarre because I've been playing the Mario Kart game for the Switch, and it's just totally like a trip down memory lane. But anyway, keep going. What have you been playing? What have you been watching?
Well, let's see. I watched a little more South Park lately.
Oh.
And those guys are just brilliant. That whole series is timeless, I'll tell you what.
Mm-hmm. What season are they on? Are they on 26?
I don't even know, because I'm starting from back in the day, 07, and I'm starting to move forward. So that's how out of touch with it I am.
Yeah.
Let's see. I think, I watched a couple more episodes of The Last Kingdom, which, I don't know, I'm still trying to form an opinion on it. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it goes bad, and I don't know, but just enough to keep me entertained and coming back.
Yeah.
And then still some more... And
you're just no longer doing the Italian thing anymore, are you?
Man, I started to do S2 races, which I've been really enjoying the A races a lot, because I tune the car just enough so where I can keep the authentic sound, like the engine and the exhaust sound of the vehicle, without having to put a race transmission in it or new exhaust, and I like that a lot. But I've gone through all the exhibitions and championships, and now they're like, now you have to do a supercar, a hypercar, a super GT. I'm like, oh, nuts. All right. And that's just adrenaline pumping. Keep me awake at night. It's a new type of adrenaline. There's Overwatch, and you're all trying to push for the whole thing to finish the objective. And then there's this, where everything's moving at 200 miles an hour, and you crash. It's like the end of the world.
Now, have you tried any of the online co-op?
I haven't, but somebody who's not my friend, and I guess I'm there, who's part of the club, joined me in a race.
Really?
And I was like, yeah, sure. You join up. I don't care. I'll play with you. It doesn't matter who you are. And he had I was in this like rice rocket kind of, not really a rice rocket, but Italian rocket rice. It was a Fiat. It was an old Fiat that I had hopped like to the max. Like it's way more power than weight. And he was in this totally hopped up Jeep Wagoneer.
Okay.
So a Jeep Wagoneer, I don't know if you know what that looks like. It looks like a Jeep and a station wagon had a kid, right?
Okay.
And so, station wagon, like Harry and the Hendersons type station wagon.
I have to cut you off. Hearing you describe that totally made me think of like how cars would sound like if they had sex. All you'd hear the horns.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry.
Oh man, mixed with a little Italian, air horn. So anyhow, we were racing around, and he was like just tumbling through all the vehicles because his vehicle was really jacked up, and of course, one little tap and my little Fiat just like bombarded off the entire course. Anyway, we had fun, but other than that, I haven't done too much online stuff.
Okay. How about anything watching wise?
Let's see. Besides South Park, I watched a little bit more of The Last Kingdom. I think I just mentioned that. But that's been about it.
You mentioned that you mentioned it.
I'm just going to mention that I mentioned it like 3 minutes ago. So, mentioning forward, how about you, Russ?
Well, I'm really thrilled, but I'm going to be a gracious host and once again say that you and I are thrilled to have Big Baby Moose return as our bona fide guest on the show. So I'm actually going to turn it over to Nick and ask Nicky Poo exactly what has he been up to, what has he been playing, what has he been watching.
Well, let's see. I've been playing a fair bit of Destiny 2, which I've talked to you guys about. I may have even played with the senior Perkins here, Mr. Russell. Still waiting for the other guy to get on board.
Yeah, I'll be there. I'll get there.
Okay.
Just be patient.
Don't worry. We'll be here when you get there. All right. Anyway, now that I've gotten over the downer, I've been playing some Destiny 2, and that's been kind of fun. And I've been playing this little thing called an SNES Classic. Ooh! Playing some games on there. Letting my kids check it out. Pretty good.
Now, did you get the NES Classic as well?
No, I did not. Those things were in and out of the stores so dang fast. Like, I didn't even know they were dropping.
You did hear that Nintendo was thinking about possibly dropping those NES Classics again. Like I think it's like first quarter of next year.
Yes, I did hear that, and I think that's a good call on their part, just because the demand is certainly there. So I mean, from a money making sense, it makes sense to go do that. But there's a lot of people that's kind of the system that really launched them off into the gaming space. For me, it's more the Super Nintendo. Even though I started on Atari 2600, the Super Nintendo was the system that cemented me as a lifelong gamer. So I've really been having fun with that and introducing my kids and wife to it and stuff. And that's been pretty much it. As far as watching things, just started rewatching Game of Thrones again. Yeah. And we watched the Defenders series on Netflix, which was pretty good. It was kind of neat seeing all the different Netflix characters, Marvel characters, come together to unite to conquer evil.
How is it? I mean, is it like production value wise and acting and whatnot? I mean, is it legit?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely legit. If you enjoy the Marvel films and you're a fan of Marvel comics, you're gonna enjoy these shows. They each kind of have their own little, I don't want to say shtick because that kind of cheapens it. Yeah. But it's just kind of their own, I don't know, for lack of a better term, I'm just going to go with kind of like culture and general nuance to the show, with I'd say of the main four, probably Iron Fist is my least favorite. But Daredevil's incredible. The guy who plays him is awesome.
I've heard good things about that.
Yeah, Luke Cage is great. Jessica Jones is good. I highly recommend seeing all of those Netflix shows and then going and watching the Defenders, because you'll appreciate it better if you watch their individual Netflix shows first. And I think there's like 2 seasons of Daredevil too. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Speaking of Marvel and Netflix, have you seen the trailer to The Punisher?
Yeah.
Dude, I've watched that once per day ever since we talked about it on the show.
You need to watch
my
Daredevil
goodness.
season 2 if you haven't, because he is in Daredevil season 2 a ton. Like that's where they first introduced the Punisher. He's one of the main characters in the second season of Daredevil.
Well, that's definitely good to know.
Yeah, go watch Daredevil season 1
The same
and 2.
actor is in there?
Yep. Yeah, the guy from Walking Dead. The guy who plays Shane. I can't think of his
John
Bernthal.
Bernthal.
Yeah.
Smith.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
John
No.
Doe.
That guy.
You know, I think it's ironic that your little speaking points here, that Metroid Prime has been playing in the background demoing.
It has. Yeah.
Irony right there.
That's my favorite game all time. I haven't even shown that to the girls yet because I know once I sit down and start playing it, I'm going to be hogging the system. But that game and Secret of Mana are my like 2 favorite games all time, and they're both on that system. So I'm just tickled pink. But we can talk more about that later.
Absolutely. Anything else you've been watching or playing?
I've been watching myself in the mirror.
Ooh, yeah. What about playing?
Oh my.
Yeah. Going to plead the fifth.
Playing with the lint in my belly button.
Yeah, no, I got to clean that out there. The years have been good to me, and I've eaten many meals, so I have to dig a little deeper to get that lint now.
Tastes like bacon.
The belly.
Close your eyes. It's almost like paprika.
The belly has become more prodigious. We'll just put it that way.
Well, let's see. For me, I've been playing.
Nobody asked you, Russ. Okay.
Things.
No. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm just kidding. We love you. What have you been playing, Russ? What have you been watching?
What have you been
I
doing?
require an air hug. Give me a hug.
Okay.
Give me a hug.
Pat you on the back a little bit. Okay.
No, I've been playing some Overwatch. Been doing that with you, of course. Been playing Destiny 2 with Big Baby Moose over here. Actually, I got to say, with Destiny 2, the gameplay mechanics are just spot on. I mean, Bungie knows how to make a first-person shooter so well. I do wish. I think I mentioned in the last episode that I had beaten the campaign, and I can't remember if I told you this, Nick, but I went back to the Shard of Light or whatever, and I was able to acquire I don't know what they call it. It's like the Vortex something or other.
The Vortex.
The Vortex.
Voidwalker. Because you're working on Warlocks, so yeah, you got your Voidwalker subclass.
That's what it is. Yeah, like all of a sudden I'm able to like launch this amazing I don't know, inverted purple spherical bomb thing that just lays waste. It's pretty gratifying.
Oh, it is. That honestly, that class is probably my favorite. It's the most interesting. You can really tweak that class depending on which of the 2 trees you go on. The upper tree, you can do a lot of fun things where you can actually, instead of throwing your grenade, you can devour it. That's the term. And so you eat the grenade and you'll get health back. So you can make yourself crazy tanky doing that build. And then the bottom build, which is probably the one I like better, it makes it so you can just melee people nonstop and generate health while you do so. So you just run around and slapping people in the face. Because Warlocks don't punch, they slap people. All 5 fingers are out. Yeah. So pretty much.
5 fingers say in the face?
Exactly. Slap. Yeah, it's exactly. That's what I say half the time while I'm doing it, actually. But it's a fun class. You'll enjoy it.
This is why I've been dying to get back into the game with you, because I feel like I've unlocked some more of the different character attributes, and I have no idea which ones are better than others. And I don't even know if I were to experiment. I've heard that certain parts to the game, once you commit to a certain thing, that's it. You cannot go back. And so I guess you could say I'm apprehensive about making those decisions until after I've talked to you about it.
What was that in reference to? Because pretty much, I mean, once you unlock a skill tree, you can't relock it, but you can jump between the 2 skill trees at any time.
One of the things I heard about was in terms of the I don't know what the correct terminology is for, but it's where you apply decals to yourself or to a weapon or something.
Oh yeah, you're talking about the shaders and all that. Yeah. They decided, and it's a weird decision because it wasn't like this in D2 in D1, to make the shaders a consumable item instead of just a use it when you feel like kind of thing.
Right.
And
right.
so, yeah, if you're going to put the shaders on your armor or your guns, they're kind of there. And if you want to do another one, you're going to lose the shader you put on. The good news is shaders drop constantly. So, but yeah, what I've been doing is basically I've just been choosing my favorite pieces of armor. And once I've got a set that I like, I go ahead and pick the shaders I like for it, put them on it, and then I lock it, because you can lock your items so you don't accidentally delete them by clicking in, I think it's the left joystick. And then what I do, if I get a new piece of armor that's higher light level, I just infuse it into that to bring it up to that light. So I can just keep using that same pretty set of armor that I've spent the money and shaders on. So yeah, you just have to be a little smarter with it. But honestly, initially it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But now having had time to mess around with it and kind of see how often the shaders drop, it doesn't bother me as much. You just got to make sure once you commit to something that you're happy with it, or else it's going to cost you a shader and a glimmer to change it, which you get plenty of that stuff, so it doesn't really matter.
In regards to the actual character skill trees and the attributes, that's not the case, though, right?
No, you
if
can
I wanted to try
jump between the two all you want.
Okay. Well, that makes me feel a whole lot better, because like I said, I've unlocked quite a few things, but I haven't actually assigned anything to them, because I was like, I think I should probably talk to Nick.
I am here to bring you solace and comfort, Russ. That's why I'm here.
I think when I start playing, it's going to be like the South Park episode of Make Love, Not Warcraft.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be like that guy who's just jumping around doing hip thrusts and like running off like cliffs and shooting the walls. Like, okay, who's the new guy over here? And then I'm going to be like, we're all going to do a raid, and then it's going to be like the main boss guy, and I'm just going to run in there and be like, oh.
In
You're
your
like, okay,
loincloth.
well, I guess she's gonna be the distraction. I'm just gonna take him down handedly.
Yeah, Leroy Jenkinsing doesn't work real good in Destiny raids. It's unfortunate. I hate to break it to you, Steve, but that ain't gonna work. You're gonna be sorely disappointed. Yeah, actually, the thing about the raids that are fun in Destiny is that they really require a lot of communication and teamwork, because most of the time you're almost like split. So half of you are doing one thing, half of you are doing another in order to create an opportunity to defeat the particular part of the raid you're on. And this newest raid, more so than any other, is very puzzle oriented. So yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting, but I don't want to give too much away.
I personally cannot wait to have Steve join us, because I think it's going to be a good time to be able to go romping through. I have not even tried any of the raids or the crucibles yet. And I think that's a good thing, because I can go through with the other characters as well. I'll probably hold off on one just so I can play it with you, so we're both kind of starting out at the same level and working our way through it. Not to mention the fact that it's going to be nice to have you whisper sweet nothings into my headset.
Yeah.
So, and of course having Nick there as well. Got to try and... I'm actually surprised at the amount of scheduling it takes to try and get 3 people to like come on. And I think it's just where I am in life. It's just I'm no longer 16 years old. I have all these duties and expectations placed upon my shoulders.
Responsibilities.
But I am confident it'll make it happen. I've also been playing Rise of the Tomb Raider, which, again, it's one of those games that the more I play, the more I love it. And I know, Nick, I think you said you owned it, but you haven't played it. Is that right?
Not Rise. I have the first one. Whatever the
first one.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
and I just started it, and I mean, I liked what I played so far, but as is often the case with me, being a father of 2 and working man, gameplay time is kind of limited, and I won't lie, Destiny's been stealing my gameplay hours for a few years now, so...
Understandably.
I have a large backlog of games to play. Now I've got an SNES Classic, and that's just going to make it that much worse. Better? I guess it depends on your point of view.
Oh, well, yeah. It's like I'm so tempted to like just burst open the dam and start talking about it, but I'm like, no, it's not time yet. We cannot talk about it yet.
We must restrain ourselves.
Put on the what is it? The chastity of restraint? I don't know. Something.
Or other way around, the restraint of chastity.
Oh, maybe, yeah. It's funny how that goes either way. It's gonna work. In terms of watching stuff, I saw the movie The Founder. Have you guys seen that?
No.
Okay.
Can't say I have, bro.
Have you heard of it?
No. I don't get out much.
Oh, I'm excited. excited now. Okay, so the founder stars Michael Keaton, who you know.
Oh, this
awesome.
is McDonald's movie.
Yeah.
It's on my watch list. Yeah, I forgot the name of it, but yeah, it's on my watch list.
McDonald's movie?
Yeah. Okay, so check this out. It's based on the actual true story of how McDonald's came to be, and so it takes place back in like 1954 or something like that. And Michael Keaton plays the guy who's this. I think his name, if I remember correctly, was like I think it was Ray
Charles.
No, no. It was what the heck was his
Bruce
last name?
Wayne.
No. Oh. It was Ray something. Anyway, he's the salesman that has been going around trying to peddle these different types of products and items and stuff, and he's getting by, and he's able to pay the mortgage and that sort of thing. And he eventually meets the McDonald's brothers, who are in Southern California. And they have opened this McDonald's shop, and he's just amazed by how they have completely reinvented the wheel in terms of how you make a burger, how you don't have to wait 30 minutes, you wait 30 seconds, how there's no plate or utensils, you have this little wrapped burger that you eat out of and you throw it away. They go through the entire thought process of what they did, and I don't want to spoil it too much, but there was a scene in particular I thought was so neat, which was that the brothers went to a tennis court, an outdoor public tennis court, and they used the actual court itself as their blueprint. They brought with them like a bunch of chalk, and then they like did this huge like life-sized like kitchen layout, like basically what the dimensions of the first McDonald's kitchen would look like. And then they brought a bunch of teenagers to like, stand at their positions within this tennis court and go through the motions. And they had to like do concept ideation on this tennis court to figure out what worked and what didn't work. It was just amazing. Like that's how you would basically create a wireframe back in the 50s, because there were no computers or anything like that. I mean, you could tell like how much like farther into the game the brothers were, that they were essentially disruptors in the food industry. So anyway, you see what happens. I'm not going to say what happens at the end, but I will say you guys really should check it out.
Right.
It is a good movie. Michael Keaton, you can't go wrong with, of course. And just seeing like how it started and where it ended up today, there is quite a bit in there where you feel for the characters. There's again, I don't want to spoil it, but I recommend it. I think it's a good film. Well, I say let's segue into one of the big topics, which is the fact that the Joygasm website is officially live. It's live. It's live. We're doing it live. Finally, we're doing it live. Yeah, exactly. I, for one, am very excited about this just because I've been working on it for the past like 3 months, just in my downtime and that sort of thing. So what I want to know is, from the two of you handsome, beastly gentlemen, what are your thoughts on just the website overall?
It's really high res, Russ. Really high res. Oh, I like it.
It's maroon. I think that's the color. Yeah.
I like that my pictures are on it. Glad my face is there.
It's like I look great. I'm on it too. That's neat. I love the picture of you guys when you click on the hosts.
Oh yeah,
Steve's shirt is the best. They look like this facial expression. I've got skills.
That's right.
It's like, yeah.
Oh yeah.
No, it's really clean. I like it. It flows well. I really like that you have got like your Xbox gamer scores and stuff on there and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely fun. It has a lot of your personality kind of built into it. And I think that's a great thing because it kind of flows from the show. If anybody's heard the show, they go to the website, they're going to see that the same kind of whimsical attitude that you guys have kind of has translated to the site itself.
Oh, awesome.
I like that there's a heart that right under or right above global community, because we love the global community.
Yeah, we do.
It's our heart.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, that is something that's worth mentioning on the About page. I thought it was important to list kind of the four main pillars of what makes Joygasm. The first one was production value, and on there it says we strive to entertain using high production value methodology, and so that goes into our audio podcast, and that will also go into just any kind of future expansion that we plan to do for the show. The second pillar is easy listening. And this is something that Steve and I talked about at great length, which is just that, the day-to-day grind can be exhausting. And it's one of those things where, like, when you're driving to work or if you're driving from work back home and you're stuck in traffic, what is it that you want to listen to that's entertaining? And I found that, like, it would just be great if we could approach the show in a manner that just makes it feel like whoever's on it, whether it's just Steve and myself or we have guests like you, Nick, on the show, it feels like we're just buddies of the listener in the back seat of their car, just yucking it up and talking about things that people like to chat about, which is video games, movies, pop culture, that sort of thing. The third pillar, of course, is the global community, which Steve touched upon there. And one of the things that I think is such a special treat for us is the fact that the stats that I received from the podcast show that we have indeed an international audience, and it's been growing slowly but surely. And we now have listeners literally, we have them not only in the United States, but in Canada, Germany, France, Spain, United Arab Emirates, Brazil, India, Japan. I don't have all the whole list in front of me, but we have a very cosmopolitan group of listeners that have listened to the show and have come back for more. And that really does just spur us on to continue making it the most enjoyable and fun it can be, because it's just, I don't know. I never thought that other countries who doesn't have English as a first language would spend the time listening to us. And that's something that, Steve, you can jump in here too. What was your reaction when you realized that we had gone just beyond the States?
No, I was pretty impressed. It happened pretty quick. Because I remember being in the closet before we were up in the main room with the table here. And you're
kicked out by the wife.
Yeah, exactly. You started saying we had 40 people listening to us, and I thought, oh, it's more than just you and I. You're like, neato. And then you said once, I think the episode before or after we graduated from the closet to the
we came out of the closet. Yeah.
Then you said we had moved on from beyond our shores, and it was pretty neat.
Well, and it's just rewarding, isn't it? Like just whenever we get a new country that all of a sudden comes into the family itself. It's just, once again, it's like, wow, now we have someone else. Welcome to the show.
Yeah.
I'd have to say probably the really cool thing about that too is it's a good social reminder that, we're all on the same planet together. We all are into the same kind of things. We may be from different places, different creeds, different colors, you name it. But we're all just people. We all like doing the same stuff. We like to talk about the same things. We like to watch the same things. It's a good reminder.
Interest and everything, yeah.
It really is. That's a good point. I think that's one of the cool things too about if you go to an event of sorts, like a conference, whether it's like E3 or Comic-Con or whatever it is, and you do have folks who fly in, whether it's folks from the United States that will go over to Europe or to Japan, or folks from those places coming here. There's that commonality that exists, and it's a very gratifying, rewarding sensation that you get when all of a sudden you meet someone and you're like, oh my gosh, you're not from here, but we have this interest, this common interest that's here. And by the end of the day, you guys are just exchanging contact info.
Yeah, you're friends.
I think a lot of that also goes into when we play games as well. Like if we're playing Halo or Destiny. I know, Nick, you've talked about how you've had lots of experiences playing Destiny where you have made lifelong friendships as a result of playing the game, of folks who maybe they live here in the States or maybe they live abroad, but there is that one universal thing that just, I don't know, it's definitely the cherry on top, I feel like.
I'd agree with that.
The fourth pillar that I put on here is work and play. And on here, I just put a little blip that says Joygasm is a passion project involving working hard and playing hard. And so I think one of the main purposes of having that is to almost act as a reminder for me, as well as just anyone who's on the show, which is the fact that it does take a lot of work to be able to produce this on a weekly basis. And especially with the plans we have in order to make it even better, it's going to take a lot of dedication. But at the same time, one of the things that Steve and I talked about early on was that we never wanted this to become a job. This is something that we knew it would take, our attention, it would take tenacity and discipline, that sort of thing. But at the same time, I never wanted it to become a stressful situation. I always wanted it to be more of like a method or a platform for us to be able to just express what we're into, just our passion for gaming, our passion for movies, just that cinematic entertainment. And so that I felt like it was important to have that there. But yeah, I mean, going through the about page here, this is definitely like phase one. And the website itself will be going through multiple phases as we go into the future, when we have plenty of more photos and video and that sort of thing. But what are your thoughts, Nick, on the about page in general? I know that you were saying it has that whimsical kind of feel, which is good. Do you feel like it properly represents the personas of us?
Absolutely. And I think that's what I was getting at by saying that, is that, yeah, your guys' personalities shine through in the about section, as well as it's very clean. It's easy to move through. It's easy to read, easy on the eyes. Like a lot of times I'll go to other websites and the setup is very chaotic. They're trying to cram so much into such a tiny space, and it just doesn't flow good for the eyes. It's not aesthetically pleasing. I think that this thing kind of hits all those check boxes as well. But I think the most important thing to come out of at least the about section is the fact that it really does let your guys' personality and the personality of your show shine through.
Except that I'm much better looking in real life than in these pictures.
Well, the lens adds about 50 pounds. Now, on the home screen here, I wanted to go back to this for a moment. So part of what I did, if you scroll down, and for those of you listening, if you can check it out, I wanted to include samples of what it is that we provide. And so there is a section called Recent Joygasm Podcast Episodes. The idea behind this is just for folks who have not subscribed, who just heard about us and are checking us out. They can actually play one of these here that I've grouped together, and I'll probably periodically update it, but I'll, with just certain episodes that I feel are stronger than others. And then if you scroll down further, there are actual instructions to showcase, hey, for those of you who aren't really podcast diehards out there, here are your simple 1, 2, 3 instructions. Whether you're using an Android or an iPhone, you can be able to go through that. Of course, we have a call to action underneath that, which will take you to our Patreon page, and we'll discuss that in just a bit. But right below that is where we have our Joygasm YouTube podcast videos. At this point in time, these are going to be updated as we publish each podcast episode on YouTube. You'll see it appear here as well. And these are also audio based. These are not going to be videos that play. It's just in a video format, so that way people can see us if they prefer YouTube as their platform. The other thing, of course, too, is that we have a contact page on our website, and this is just a great method if you're interested in getting in touch with us. I know that you hear us, or me most of the time, just rattling off all those different things. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, that sort of thing, this is another avenue to get directly in touch with us, and we definitely want your feedback. We want to be able to know what you like, what you don't like. What, perhaps
like
if you have a suggestion for something. Oh, I love you, man.
Love you, man.
And I love you.
Oh, but I love you too.
Snap.
There's a whole lot of man love in here.
Yeah, it's a bromance. Let's be real.
That's agape.
Oh, my. And, of course, on the lower part of the contact screen here, I just thought it'd be fun to include a little Google map showing not precisely, but, generally speaking, precisely where we are based out of. So, a little bit of how you do, a little howdy doody time. Get acquainted.
A little handshaking.
Are there anything that let me ask you, Steve?
What, Russ?
What else would you like to see in the future for the Joygasm website?
I would like to see maybe some clips of us actually playing games, because we always talk about it. And, if folks aren't on Twitch, or maybe they are, maybe they're not, but maybe they miss us if we're not playing.
I miss you.
So maybe just too. Man, distracting me. But we talk about it. So I mean, there's maybe some footage of us actually playing the games, or we always talk about Overwatch and Forza and whatever else. So it'd be nice to capture some expressions maybe and ham it up a bit.
I was thinking about, as we expand on the Joygasm YouTube page, we'll have different playlists on there. I was thinking maybe I could have just certain sections, like if we have our play of the week, for example, as that grows, perhaps I could add that to the page as well.
What would you think about having some of our tunes, our music on the page? Yeah, load it up, have a little bit of background music.
I thought about that.
Oh, we can just beatbox the entire time. It'll be us, and we'll copyright it.
So that is a possibility. There is kind of a general rule of thumb where you don't necessarily want to have background music playing constantly on the website, just because music is so subjective. It'd be one thing where perhaps what we could do is we could have the theme song play for like the first 5 seconds and fade out, just so you get a little something.
I like my beatbox idea.
Okay. We'll put that into the
I think you should just have it the audio from when we were waxing about the Xbox controller running.
Oh!
Every time they load the page, that's gonna happen. Like,
I'll have to add that into the list, actually. I'm not sure if I put that one in there. That's a classic.
Load it up, and it'll be like, ooh, yeah.
Billy, what are you watching? Nothing more on the Joygasm website.
Ooh, yeah, I like the B button.
Yeah. And it's been derailed again. I'm terrible. I'm sorry.
No. Derailment is encouraged. So yeah, I definitely think that it's worth putting some things in here that perhaps will provide more of a rich internet experience for sure. I'm trying to think if there's anything else in here. I think that's pretty much like the meat and potatoes of it.
You need more me on it. Let's just be real.
Yeah, that and some asparagus.
Oh!
We need a whole balanced meal on here, Ron.
Once again, it's joygasm.tv. So for those of you who are interested, if you want to see some pictures of Steve and myself, as well as some of the other little goodies that we have on there, please go check us out. We definitely want to see what you think. Moving right along into the next topic, which is Patreon. Now, this is something that has also been on the to-do list for some time. If you go to patreon.com/joygasm, that is our page that we have just launched. It's gone live today as of this recording. And this is where anyone who's interested, who loves our show and wants to be able to contribute financially to us, this is where you do it. And we've got a whole list of different reward tiers set up for you that I figured it would be nice to kind of go over really quickly. But the idea being that, in order for us to execute on our future plans for the show, and believe me, we have some big ideas. We need to be able to buy the necessary gear, be able to fly out the necessary people. Like, for instance, like Nick, as an example, I would love to be able to have you here in the studio, just being able to talk to us, because I feel like there is something that is lost by having you do this from your home in Seattle. So things like that, being able to pay for logistics, being able to have high profile interviews, that sort of thing. So
I'm so high profile. I'm a big deal.
You are a big deal. The big deal, baby moose.
Yeah,
That's going to be a rowdy episode when that finally happens.
It's going to be great.
As I sit in my living room with my kids playing
Yeah.
Super Nintendo in the other room. Yeah, I'm big deal, huge deal.
Now, normally I'm not really into having to push and promote stuff in this capacity, but I feel it's important, since we have this launch, to be able to kind of spread the word and build awareness on this, because this is going to help cultivate this community that ultimately is why we're doing this passion project in the first place. The first tier that we have on the rewards section here is that for $1, you will get early access to our weekly podcast, which appears here on the Patreon page each week, one day early before it launches everywhere else. Plus, once a month, we will plop out a patron-only bonus podcast episode containing a myriad of topical possibilities. And that's just, Steve and I will have to come up with something, and it'll be a fun little extra gimme that we'll put out there as a piece of digital swag.
Oh my gosh! I have to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
What?
So I'm reading through your Patreon rewards depending on your donation numbers, and I just gotta say, I got to the Joygasm fan mail, $30 or more per month. And this is just gold. What kind of design do you ask? It could be a professional photograph from Russ's archive. He's freelanced for over 15 years. A sketch, perhaps a lousy but amusing creative attempt by Steve. That's fabulous.
I will have you know that was not me. That was actually Steve. I was writing that up. I'm like, I want to try and communicate that, I have different artistic skills over the last 15 years. I'm a professional in these different capacities. And then
Steve's lousy attempts. Oh,
yeah. Kudos to Steve on that one.
I'm always the butt of the jokes, but that's okay with me.
Oh, no, it's all good.
Hey,
everyone loves Steve.
I like big butts. Cannot lie.
I like big butts and I cannot lie.
Oh my gosh. You are, wow.
Okay, I had to get that out. It was going to eat itself out of me if I didn't say it.
There we go.
Also, the $1 tier grants you access to the Joygasm activity feed, where we will post all sorts of goodies, including photos, updates, requests for feedback, that sort of thing. So it's kind of the entry-level position that, once again, $1 doesn't seem like a lot. In fact, if there is someone who decides to be able to gain access to us through this particular tier, that's like $12 a year. It's extremely cheap. But the idea being that, if you have more and more folks coming in and are willing to support us at that level, then that adds up and compounds upon itself. And suddenly we are able to finance our, having people flown out, having the ability to buy more professional gear for our future endeavors and whatnot. And I think that we've talked about this in the past on the show, but the idea, the end game, if you will, is that we want to be able to make the jump into video. Video is a very big to-do item on our list. And that requires a lot of money, especially considering the fact that we want to be high production value, going back to those pillars. And so, iPhones are not going to cut it. We need to be able to have the same kind of gear that I'm used to using when I'm on my day job. And that costs thousands of dollars. And we want to, we need camera gear, lighting gear, reflectors. We need set decorations. We need to be able to, like I said, pay for folks' flights if they are coming out. If there's an event we need to cover, we need to fly ourselves out to something. So that's where this stuff comes in. Now, the second tier is the giveaway drawing. And this is something that is really exciting for all of our listeners out there, which is that for $2 instead of $1, the $2 tier is that each month we are going to be giving away a video game. And so by subscribing at the second tier, the $2 tier here, each month you will automatically be entered into this drawing for a chance to win. What do you think about that, Nicholas?
I like games. No.
Games are.
Who doesn't like winning stuff, and who doesn't like games? I mean, if you're listening to this podcast, you probably like games.
Absolutely. And actually, the other thing too is the fact that you get all of the earlier rewards from the tier 1, I guess you could say, the $1 tier. So once again, the tiers are designed to compound upon themselves as well. Again, the one after that, you have a $5 tier, which is called Never Tell Me the Odds. Basically, that increases your chance of winning the free game each month because you'll be entered twice into the drawing. After that, there's another tier, which is the on-air shout-out, where, jumping in at this tier, what we'll do is we'll give you a personal thank you on the show. We have another tier, it's the $20 tier, which is you can ask Joygasm whatever you want, and we'll talk about it on the show. So there's quite a few on here. I won't go on to each and every one on here, but I definitely encourage you guys to check it out because there is quite a bit. And I mean, I don't know. I'm Chatty Cathy over here. Steve, do you have any comments regarding Patreon?
I think we should include an in-between tier of not only the game giveaway, but a Blu-ray giveaway, Rob.
Oh. That is definitely a possibility. We'll have to look into that.
Indeed.
What other thoughts do you have regarding the Patreon site? Are you? Let me ask you this: are you excited, Steve?
I'm excited and I'm humbled because, I like giving gifts, Russ. I'm a person who likes to give gifts, but I feel weird when people give me gifts. You know what I mean? I know that sounds weird. You have to be in my head and in my heart to really understand it, but at the same time, it's kind of if this is expected to jump to the levels that people want it to and that we want it to, we need a little bit of a boost.
Absolutely. Yeah.
My wife's the same way, Steve. She doesn't like getting gifts. She likes giving gifts. She doesn't like getting gifts.
Yeah.
Christmas is the worst. Look, I got you this thing. She's like, oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay,
Don't look at me while I unwrap it because it makes me feel awkward. Like, okay. I'm getting glared at right now.
Nice.
But inside she's going, yes, I got it.
And we actually talked about, I think I wrote this toward the end of just the little intro on Patreon, which is that at the end of the day, the exclusive treats are not what our Patreon is solely about. For all the listeners out there, you believe in what we're doing, care about its success, and ultimately want to help Joygasm grow. And we want to reward you for that. And so it's a great, kind of almost like a bartering system where like you're essentially buying into the dream, and we want to be able to have different methods of saying, hey, thank you very much. Really appreciate that.
Think of it as an investment opportunity.
There you go. Little community investing. I like it. Investing and reinvesting. Steve.
Yes?
Yes.
Do you know what time it is?
Noon?
No! It is not. There you go. Feels so lovely inside. It's gushing.
Come on, join in, Nick.
Alrighty, the topic of the day is the SNES Classic Purchase Experience. This is one of the biggest events of the year, and I know that all three of us decided to go out and try and grab the world by the tail and wrap it around and put it in our pocket.
Procure.
And it sounds to me like we were all very successful. So
Much
I think what I want to do is...
I was successful. I was, Russ.
Yes, you were.
Anyway, go ahead.
I want to start off with Nick.
Hi.
And, hello! I want to know, what was your overall experience picking up? Like if you could just recount, paint the picture, how was it for you during your SNES Classic purchase experience?
Well, let's see. I have to start from the beginning, so we'd have to go like, first, there was darkness. Wait, no, wait, that's something different. No, so
That's too far.
oddly enough, I had been kind of thinking over the day, planning, coming up with, a strategy on how I was going to acquire one of those fine little boxes. And initially I was like, okay, I'm going to do the GameStop thing. I'm going to get up at like 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to go get in line and I'm going to go pick up one of these Super NES Classic editions and I'm going to go to work afterward and life is going to suck. So, but I'm going to do it. And so that was kind of my plan. But then I talked to Russ on my early drive-in and he was saying, yeah, we're going to try a couple things and hit up a couple places and see what's going on. And I was like, well, if you do that, you need to give me the info, the 411, on how that goes.
Cuadro uno.
Yeah, being that you're a couple hours ahead of me, I figured, you'd be a good source because you're like in the future, man. It's like my own personal flux capacitor. It's awesome. So I went ahead and that was my plan. But then I called you in the evening and you're like, we're at Walmart. They have them here. They're doing a midnight release. I was like, I'm on it. So my awesome wife called Walmart and talked to the electronics people because I hate phones and found out that they, in fact, at the Walmart near my home had 40 of them. To which point I said, I love you, children. I love you, wife. I may not be back. And I ran out the door. And so, I went and got in line.
But I also love Nintendo.
Yeah, exactly. Precisely. I hit that minivan and I just had them wheels just burning. Oh my gosh. That's hardcore dad stuff right there, man. Spinning out in the minivan.
The way you say goodbye to your family, I could totally see you in like a Viking helmet with like a bunch of like fox furs wrapped around your neck, and you have your shield on your back.
A very plasticky, like Metroid Prime helmet on.
Oh yeah, and I just, I stepped outside the door and I was like, oh, yeah, exactly, with a battle axe in my hand. But yeah, so I went ahead and whipped down there, and it was about 7 o'clock in the evening, and I got in the line. I was the third person in line, so that was pretty sweet. So I didn't have to wait long after 12:01, and yes, right after I got there, I'd say probably was a couple people got in line after me, and then about an hour after that, people really started pouring in, and I would say probably 3 hours to midnight, they had already had 40 people in line. So all of their Super NES classics were spoken for at that point. Mm-hmm. And the cool thing was that Walmart ended up doing is they actually went through and they just gave each of us a number. And that way, when people were coming after and they knew that their stock was gone, they just let them know, hey, you don't want to stand in line. The units are all spoken for. So people didn't have to waste their time and stand in line and then get up to the counter and be disappointed. So kudos to Walmart for their way in handling that. And it was a very pleasurable experience as a result for most of us. But yeah, it was great because, you're sitting in line with all these people. We're all here to get the same thing. And of the people that were in line, I don't think any of them was buying one for the secondary market. They all seemed to be getting one because they loved the Super Nintendo and they wanted to enjoy all these old nostalgic games that were such a key part of their growing up experience. Varying ages, a lot of people close to my age, mid to late 30s. And I just had a great time, honestly. I was talking to people about, different games that we loved, which games on the system we were excited about, games that we wished were on the system that aren't there. And it was really cool. It was really cool because it's just, total strangers, but yet again, kind of like we were talking about earlier, all brought together under the same passion. And so you could just immediately start talking to people in line. And it was great because there's like probably 6 guys around me and 1 gal, and we were all just cracking jokes and talking old school gaming. And yeah, it was a really positive experience. And even though, it was 5 hours, it's not a short time to sit in line. I think the last time I sat in a line that long actually was with you when we went to see the re-releases of Star Wars at the Petaluma Cinemas when we were in high school. So
man,
way back in the day.
Yeah. So I hadn't done anything like that in a while, but the 5 hours went by pretty quick. And I gotta say, all in all, good experience. Good experience, worth the wait.
Awesome. Yeah, we had a very similar experience when we went to Walmart. That was not our plan. Our original plan was we had heard that there was a Best Buy that was I think it was based kind of up in the Frisco area. And I had a couple of colleagues at work who, they were absolutely diehard Nintendo fans. And so they were strategizing and planning what they want to do, how they're going to do it. And so we came up with this whole idea that, hey, let's just have the 4 of us meet in line. We'll just, basically spend the night in line. Because Best Buy wasn't going to be offering their SNES classics until the next morning around 8 a.m. or so.
Yeah.
And what ended up happening was I started to think about, the town that we live in is a lot smaller than these other towns. And so I started to think, maybe we could just stop off at the local GameStop and see if there's a line there or not, just to see what it's like. And perhaps we could stay there. And then actually, this is kudos to the wife. She actually suggested that we check out the Walmart here locally. And so I ended up calling them, same kind of deal. And they said, yeah, we have, 31 of them. Mm-hmm. And so I couldn't believe it. I asked them, well, are you going to be selling this at midnight? They said, yeah. And I thought to myself, well, we might be able to do this a lot sooner than I thought. And so it was so funny because I had already told Steve, hey, we're going to leave at midnight. We're going to drive out. It's going to take me a 40-minute or 45-minute drive or so out to this location. I'm going to introduce you to 2 guys you don't know. We're going to hang out in line for 8 hours. And that ended up not happening because we go to this Walmart location, and sure enough, we get there. There are only 6 people that are in line ahead of us. and they were just the nicest, coolest people. And it was one of those funny situations for me personally because I'm a lot older now. I'm no longer like 16 or even in my 20s. And it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know, like when you're younger, you're more sprightly, you're more youthful and healthy. You can handle waiting in lines, that sort of thing. And I had kind of a realization at that moment where I was like, oh my gosh, I'm old.
Yeah, I had that same one.
Like, why am I having to stand in this line for? And that never ever bothered me until this moment, which it wasn't like I was totally put out or anything like that. It was kind of a combination of still having the inner child really being excited. Hey, I'm in line. I know I'm going to get this thing. This is super cool. This is an event. This is something that I've been waiting for. And then, now it was coupled with kind of like almost like my old man. Like our dad was coming in like, I don't want to wait in line. Oh, this is nonsense.
Why can't you guys just sell it to us now?
Yeah.
There's only people in line,
Yeah, it was pretty funny, like how that all kind of ended up kind of, I don't know, going tit for tat in my head. But overall, though, I was really impressed. I thought that Walmart did a fantastic job. To be honest, I was kind of dreading it because I've seen so many stories about how like fights break out at Walmart or someone gets shanked. Yeah, just these horrible situations. And I was like, I do not want to be in the middle of a riot. I don't want to have to like
an SNES riot.
Yeah.
Hashtag.
It's just crazy that like just some of the
All
stuff
of a
I've
sudden,
seen.
it turns into real life Super Punch Out.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, thankfully, none of that happened. Everybody who was in line was very friendly, very polite. They were gracious. And kudos to Walmart for actually doing the ticketing system. That was something that I had heard that Best Buy did back when the NES Classic came out. I don't know if Walmart did that as well. But seeing them do that, it's just the best system in the world because it guarantees you a unit. Like you have that slip of paper in your hand. You don't have to wait in line. You can go back to your car. You can go shop around if you want, buy a soda or something, come back in line. It's very orderly. And it was just a delightful experience. I think we were in line for 3 hours?
Oh yeah. 3 hours. Seemed like a lot longer than that, but it was
Try
definitely 3
5.
hours.
Yeah. Yeah, 5. That's wow. Now, what's interesting is that the guy who was first in line at the Walmart that we went to had been there since 4 p.m. Mm-hmm. We got there, I think, at 9.
Yeah.
9 p.m. And they weren't giving them out till 12. So, I don't know. I think, what was that, 8 hours in line?
Yeah. Yeah.
And what was kind of funny was that someone apparently at Walmart had given him a chair. It would look like it was like a chair from the break room or something to sit on. They probably took pity on the poor guy. But he was just as nice as can be as well and just enjoyed talking with the folks around you and around him, excuse me. And so what I ended up doing was I contacted one of the colleagues from work and I said, hey, they have 31 units here and there's only like 8 or 9 people in line. You guys should come over this way. And sure enough, one of them decided to make the trek, which was like an hour drive for him. But he was driving like, I don't know, he said his needle hit the 100 mile per hour notch a couple of times. And it was in the rain and everything else. It was at nighttime. He got there. He got number 29 out of 31.
There you go.
Yeah, it was just insane, but it was great to see him there. I got to introduce him to Steve, and that was a lot of fun as well. And then just, at the end when everyone was receiving their SNES Classic, everyone was just also kind of saying their goodbyes to people who they've been chatting with in line. Like, all right, yeah, hope you have fun. Yeah, way to go, dude. Yeah, and it's just having that camaraderie is kind of the icing on the cake for a situation like that.
Yeah, we had the same thing happening with there's one guy who's right next to me. It's funny, he was a teacher and he was getting a substitute for the next day because he's calling out.
That is so cool.
So I was having a good time talking to him and stuff, and we both walked out together because he was right behind me, and yeah, we were doing the exact same thing. Like, hey man, have a great time, and he's like, yeah, you too, man. Enjoy the system. It was a cool experience.
Yeah.
Well, I got to tell it from my perspective, Russ. Because you called me, like you said. And so I had settled down for the evening, like, okay, this is the plan, and all right, no problem. I'll be at his house and meet up, 9 o'clock, and we'll go over and whatever. So I'm like, okay, I'll make something to eat around. Like,
well, no. I said meet me at my house at midnight.
yeah, no, you said 11. You said 11.
11 o'clock, yeah.
So I'm thinking, okay, I'll make something to eat around like 9 or whatever, and I'll just finish what I'm doing. And then I think I was actually playing Forza. And then you call, you're like, new plan. This is what's up. Okay. I'm like, what, Russ? Like, we just got off the phone like 20 minutes ago. You're like, okay, Steve, we're going to Walmart. You got to get here like now. I'm like, now? Like, my laundry's not done.
Now?
I don't have any underwear. I had the whole day like planned to catch up with everything.
I'm standing here freeballing.
Yeah, freeballing. And I'm like, I'm not going to go to Walmart freaking Commando. So... so I told you, like, I don't have anything I haven't even made dinner yet. Like, get over here. I have frozen burritos. All right, just get over here now. I'm like, all right.
Dinner champions.
Peel out of the neighborhood. Get here. Cook the burritos. Russ is pacing back and forth.
I totally
in
was.
the family room. I'm like, okay, I better eat fast. So these things are scalding hot. I'm eating bean and cheese burritos, like shoving them down my gullet. And so not only like am I scalding my mouth, but I mean, I have this rock in my gut. You're like, okay, let's go. We go to Walmart and there's people waiting in line and we're all like just wide eyed, like, okay, just go to the back. Are we in the right place? Like we're on the back of the store. And the guy looks at us who's been there at 4, goes, yep. Without us saying anything, he goes, yep, you're in the right place. Get in line. And we're like, okay. So we get in line and then, there was this dude there with his entire family, which was pretty freaking awesome. Like his kids were there. He had this little small army. He had like 4 kids and his wife, which was pretty cool. And but all of a sudden, like, and when people started talking, I got real self-conscious because I have bean and cheese burrito breath with scalded mouth, and so my breath reeks.
I'm on fire.
Not only that. Yeah, really. So I feel self-conscious about talking to everybody. So I'm going, it's pretty cool. I try to like just not, envelop everybody in my cloud. And then my stomach started to swell, like with, just getting like gas pains. I'm like, I don't want to lose my place in line. The good thing I got my number. I'm just going to go walk away. Like, Steve, where you going? Where you going, Steve? Hang out. I'm like, I got to go away, Russ. Don't ask me to tell me. Don't expect me to explain why, please. Oh, boy.
That was really funny.
But I forgot how, like, just waiting in line forever just makes you so tired.
It really
usually
does.
I can stay up to 1 and 2, no problem playing games, but that's because there's stuff that's going on. After a while, like, I'm beat. I want to get out of here.
I was too. It was like, it got to be about 11 o'clock. And I remember turning to you and I was like, man, I feel tired.
Yeah.
Why do I feel so tired?
'Cause you're
It's just
old.
weird. I think you're right.
I got to give kudos to the Walmart staff though, because they were positive and they were happy, and
Yeah.
I mean, I've been in the retail industry for the longest time, and there's a point like when it's getting late and it's time to close, and you have some of the straggler customers left who've already like worked the entire day and they're already kind of bitter and they're kind of pushing that on you. You're just done with it as well, and those guys were staying happy the whole entire time and optimistic and helpful, and that was just really cool. But I'm telling you, whenever their phone was ringing or people are walking by, I did feel self-conscious, like someone's going to pull me aside, like, hey, can you help me find something? I'm like, no, I cannot. Never again.
Oh man,
One of the other.
I was gonna say that was probably one of the funniest and funnest things about being there. I mean, it's kind of messed up. This is going to paint me in a bad light, but oh well. So was the poor guy at the counter who's getting calls nonstop. I mean, literally within an hour of me being there, he must have gotten called about 150 times. And, oh, hey, do you have the NES Classic? So once we get the 45 people in line with their tickets, people are still calling. It was amazing. There were people who were calling like 10 to midnight, like they were going to get one. I'm like, apparently you've never done this before. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the poor guy, he's just like trying to think up creative, nice ways to let people down. And you're like,
That's what you got
there's
to do.
just not really any good way for me to say this. So I'm going to come out and say it. Yeah. We
You're
don't
late.
got any. You're too late.
You waited too long.
And, like he kept too late. It was funny because he could see us watching him, kind of like chuckling and stuff. And he came over and was talking to us at one point when the phone stopped ringing for 5 seconds. I'm like, "This is a thankless job tonight, didn't it?" He's like, "Yep, but it pays my bills just the same." I was like, all right.
Nice.
But yeah, so he was kind of entertaining us, like saying different things to people to let them know they couldn't get an NES. So I was enjoying that. It was pretty fun. Yeah, I agree. The staff were very very amicable.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And one of the things I forgot to mention, actually both of us forgot to mention, was that as the night drew on,
Sure, Russ.
something on.
Yeah, you can draw those parallel lines.
As the night waned on.
there you go. How about that? Nice. Someone's been playing Scrabble.
Yeah. I noticed, and as well as Steve, that as the line was starting to get to max capacity, the people who continued to show up got more and more frantic. And so like they come up and they see the line like, okay, so this is the line. So where's the back of the line? And like,
Yeah.
And so it was like this kind of like community effort to like try and be as helpful as possible.
Right.
So like everybody would like point and go, no, dude, you got to go back to the front of the store and find this dude. He's wearing a yellow vest. He's giving out the paper, the slips. So then you see like this person who like, doesn't do physical activity.
Yeah.
And he spins on his heel. He's getting the most amount of exercise that he's ever gotten out of the whole year. And he sprints back to the front. And it's so funny because, like,
The expression on his face, too.
I know, it's absolute horror. And he's like just sprinting back, and all of a sudden he's just gone. And then like 5 to 10 minutes later, he'll come back, or she. I mean, there were girls in line too,
Sweating,
And it was
breathing
so-
heavy.
absolutely. But they.
I got number 28.
They had a look of absolute peace and satisfaction on their face, despite like the beads of sweat and just them still trying to catch their breath. It was the funniest thing. But what the heck was
That was
that?
my
That was probably
phone.
like the emotion they felt after they knew they were going to get one.
I know. I was gonna say that's actually quite perfect. But what was the other thing I was gonna say? Our friend Sydney, who drove like a bat out of hell in order to get here, he was the same way. I mean, he got there, and I was texting him even before he came in. I'm like, dude, you need to find this person. He has a mustache. He has a yellow vest.
He's got a Walmart shirt on. You'll see him.
He looks like Magnum PI. If he were poor and worked
Yeah,
at Walmart. Wait.
So we were victorious in our quest. It was awesome. And I got to say, I got to give kudos to Nintendo for actually listening to the fans. And I think there has been enough of an outcry for them to actually take a look at this. And Steve actually may be correct. There may be a certain component to this where they all along were going to be making more units. This is more of a marketing ploy. But I think it's not that by itself, just because Nintendo tends to be rather stubborn when they announce how many units they're going to have for a specific console, and we saw that with like the NES Classic, for example.
Oh, yeah.
The in terms of the SNES Classic, however, I think that there were enough people making noise that they were willing to generate more units, because it's not like it's hard for them to make this. This is not some bleeding edge technology we're talking about. Which is, and like I said, kudos to Nintendo for doing that. A big thank you from all of us to you for actually listening and making this more of a possibility, just simply because the pre-orders were impossible to obtain due to all the bots going on. I mean, once all those stores went live with the product, they were sold out in seconds. And there's just no way for just normal folks to be able to do that. And so luckily we still have this brick and mortar approach. Now, the other thing is that the next morning, so you have to understand, like Steve and I get home. I mean, we probably get in bed by about 2 a.m.
Easily.
And I tell Steve, I'm like, okay, here's the plan.
Now, hold on. I got to stop you because
Okay.
this is as I'm walking to my car to leave.
Steve thinks that the war is over. He has no idea the battle's just begun. So he's walking to his car. You could tell he's already shutting down for the night.
Yeah.
And, my daughter, of course, is asleep in bed upstairs in her room and stuff. And so I follow him out. I'm like, okay, Steve. So we're having to talk like real hushed tones so we don't wake the child up.
Or the neighbors, for that matter.
Steve, okay, so I got this plan. What I want you to do is I want you to wake up at 6 a.m. and I want you to come back over at 7. And we're going to try and see if we can score some more of these.
Now, granted, I hate the mornings. I am not a morning person. You have people that are like, hey, it's morning up, then let's rise and shine. And I'm like, leave me alone. I don't want to talk to anybody. If you're that bright around me, just turn the other way. And so Russ is like, nah, yeah, either way, you're getting up at 6. I'm like, that's like the worst idea I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, and Steve was not thrilled at all, but I'm like, Steve, I need you here. We need to try this out. And I was like pumped about it. So like,
my number one guy. You had to give it.
that was totally what it was. It was the whole Jack Nicholson turning his head. Remember, you are number one guy. But not so much did I get a yes, sir. I got kind of like a stink-eyed look.
Lots of grumbling. Yeah.
I hate you.
So he ends up, going home. I get in bed. You will not believe this. I actually woke up before my alarm went off at 6 a.m. I mean, I'm telling you, it's a calling, bruh. It's a calling. It's just that's what bounces my butt out of bed in the mornings. But I literally got up like 2 minutes before my alarm goes off at 6 a.m. And of course, start spamming the crap out of Steve's phone. Like, are you awake? Are you awake? Wake up. Are you awake? Wakey.
All caps have you, not just like just texting, hey Steve, wakey, are you awake? It's like, bam, wake up, boy. Bam, wakey. Bam, you ready to do this? Bam. I'm like, oh man, like the worst possible way to wake up. Yeah, that's how it worked.
Wow.
It's the whole brotherly love thing. I feel it is kind of my duty as his older brother. It doesn't change. For those of you who are listening, who are youngsters out there, it doesn't change. Yeah. We'll be doing this when we're like 80, and I'm still like, hey, let me alone. And I'm still just, being the annoying, obnoxious older brother.
I remember when we were kids and used to run in my room and do one of two things, Russ. Either you would jump on my bed and act like a gorilla and just go, Gadosh, wake up until I finally woke up. Or you just put your mouth really close to my nose and figured you hadn't brushed your teeth yet and had morning breath. You would go,
Dang.
with the slowest breath, just to like make sure if I ever inhaled that I would inhale your morning breath, and that would be how I would wake up and start the day.
No wonder you hate mornings.
Man, no what exactly. I was just about to say that.
It was so
It's all
funny.
your fault, Russ.
I forgot I did that. That is the funniest thing because like as I was doing it, I'd stare at his face, and you'd see his expression, like as he's unconscious, like as he's slowly being brought to consciousness due to my death breath. You could see like his face would kind of scowl, and he'd be like, you could tell he's like, what? Is this real? I can't tell. It was definitely real. Oh, yeah, it's just yeah.
From being pulled from the dream world of puppy dogs and candy canes frolicking around, and then just like being pulled right into Russ's face right above mine as morning breath.
I always wondered if I was like screwing with your dreams, like you had some sort of really happy dream and then it kind of got all twisted.
But you like that. That's the way you prefer it, Russ.
Yeah. I love you.
You're right.
Anyway, going back to the story at hand here. We end up getting over to the GameStop, and there is only one person in line.
No
and
way.
you have to remember too, yeah, it is so crazy, dude. Like it was raining when we both woke up, and I was thinking, oh, this is not good because we were thinking, should we go to Target or should we go to GameStop?
I have to pause you.
Okay.
Now. Okay, Nick. I love sleeping in the mornings. Me too. That's one of my favorite pastimes. I don't wake me up in the morning. Let me sleep in. Number one. Number two, when it's cold and gray outside, even better for sleeping in the weather. And when I love the rain. Number three. And so you have the morning, which is cold, and I love it sleeping in the cold, and it's gray, and it's raining, and I'm peaceful. So you have the perfect sleeping environment ripped from me to go stand in the cold outside, not sleeping.
This is the kind of dedication Stevavitch has, ladies and germs, when it comes to Joygasm.
Okay, continue, Russ. On with the story.
So, what ends up happening is that we're like, oh my gosh, there's one person in line. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to drop Steve off at the front. Okay.
What we're going to do is I'm going to stay in the heated car. You're going to go wait out in line in the cold.
That is not exactly how it went.
Oh, no.
So what ends up happening is like, so I slow the car down to about 15 miles an hour and then boot him out of the car. And, he does his little stop, drop, and roll. He's
Yeah, he hit the eject button.
So Steve ends up going over and hanging out there. And I, as the caring brother, go to McDonald's.
Mickey D's.
And I pick the two of us up a medium caramel mocha with I believe it's a sausage, egg, and cheese McGriddle meal. So the hash brown does come with it. And I come back and give that to Steve to munch on because I know he's not a morning person. Also, I had packed a very comfy fold-out chair, which I let Steve sit in the entire time. I brought for myself it's like a little camping stool thing. There's no back or anything, but it's better than sitting on concrete. So,
Since we had been sitting on concrete and tile and aluminum shelving for 3 hours the night before.
Exactly. I mean, I was thinking about it the whole time thinking, okay, we're not going to do this like if we have to do this in the morning. So, what was the nice gentleman's name? That was Jackson. Okay, so Jackson, who I believe he was around 18 years old or something like that. Real nice guy, engaged us in conversation. You actually had quite a bit of chatting about, what was it? Final Fantasy, Resident Evil, just kind of reminiscing. Devil May Cry, yeah. Really knowledgeable guy, playing a lot of games. It looks like he was a bit of a budding cosplayer as well, so that was really cool. And then the line started to grow as well there. And what was interesting was that at one point, Target was actually in the same shopping plaza as GameStop. And so one of the guys who had gotten in line behind me suddenly left and got in his car and drove over to Target. And I realized, oh, wow, like they're opening at 8 a.m. and GameStop doesn't open until 10. So I'm like, so Steve is chatting up with Jackson. Is that his name? Yeah. So they're chatting and I just like blatantly interrupt him. I'm like, I'll be right back.
Hey, we got it.
And I just hopped in my car and went over there. And so as I'm parking, I see a guy walking out with the SNES Classic. You could tell it's in the bag. And so I rolled on my window. I'm like, hey, what's going on? Are there any left? He's like, oh no, man, they just sold out. Like there were people who came in the last like 10 minutes of when the store opened and got it. I was like, okay, not a big deal. But it was fun because I was like, yeah, enjoy it. Yeah, thanks, dude. Once again, that camaraderie, that commonality, it's just a lot of fun. It's just a fun event.
Funny how there's all this camaraderie when everyone's not rage quitting and swearing at each other from playing Destiny or Halo or what have you.
Saying terrible things about each other in forums.
I chalk it up to the fact that there's probably a lot more Nintendo fans that were lining up. They tend to be a little more cordial, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
So anyway, we wait in line. This thing happens, and we end up scoring an additional 2 SNES Classics. Now, those of you who are listening, as well as probably Mr. Big Baby Moose, is wondering, why did we end up buying 4 SNES Classics? Because doing the math, there are 2 of us, and we have 4 of them.
Could have bought a copy of Destiny.
I'm just going to line to
Yeah.
I'm just going to wait in line with you, Russ. You just pulling me along with you. If I would wait in line, you're going to be with me. Yeah. Oh, man. Aw.
So the purpose of this is that we have a plan here on the show to do drawings for 3 out of the 4 SNES Classics. And what's going to happen is that for each one of the remaining months of this year, so October, November, and December, at the start of the month, we are going to announce how you can be entered into one of these drawings. And then at the end of the month, we will do a drawing, and whoever wins will win themselves a SNES Classic. Now, we've decided to also sweeten the pot a bit for each one of these releases. So the first one will just be an SNES Classic. The second one will be an SNES Classic with a wireless controller. And the final one, which is going to be the big hurrah for the end of it for folks who just cannot find it at all, we're going to have an SNES Classic with a wireless controller, with a collector's guide that I believe it documents all the games that comes with the SNES Classic. It's kind of looks like Steve is reaching over. He's just going to grab it.
Kabam!
Oh, thank you very much, good sir. It's called Playing with Superpower. And it has all the SNES Classic games that are included with it. It looks like there's like blueprints and schematics of just the different prototypes of the system itself. There's a lot of the concept ideation and the synopsis of all the different games. I mean, it's a nice collector's item to have. So we are serious around here, especially considering the fact that the pre-order thing, I think, affected us quite a bit in terms of how hard it is to find these, and especially considering how, to my understanding at this point, is that the SNES Classics are sold out everywhere. I mean, I think everybody scooped them up, whether they were at Best Buy, Walmart, Toys R Us, Target, GameStop. I have heard that there are certain outfits that do have a handful here and there, but I do believe that probably by the end of next week, I think it'll be impossible to find, at least until Nintendo decides to unload another batch. But that is the idea, and we will have instructions for you probably starting on the following episode of Joygasm on that. But it's one of those things that helps us out. You know, we want to be able to build awareness for the show, and we feel like this is a really cool way to do it. So,
You know, walking out of Target, Russ, this is going to segue, but not really segue, but side point.
I like riding segways.
Yeah, segues are awesome. I think Wonder Woman's out on Blu-ray now.
It is.
I saw it. I thought I saw it on the way out, but I didn't see it in 4K, so I didn't get your attention. But available to purchase, and it's a great movie.
It is indeed, and that might be something that we might do for Patreon. See, that's the thing. That's the idea.
New releases.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. So yeah, if you're interested in that sort of thing, definitely keep an eye on the Patreon page. Keep your ears glued to Joygasm. You know, we're here to make you happy. That's the idea.
Glue your ears and glue your eyes.
I would recommend against gluing eyes.
That sound effect was just perfect. So the next question I have for you, Nick, is have you had a chance to actually sit down and play with the SNES Classic?
You bet your butt I have.
Ooh, I like it.
Yes, indeed.
You bet your brown
Probably
eye.
the cooler thing is that not only have I had a chance to play it, but my wife and kids have been playing it, maybe not nonstop, but
Sweet.
almost nonstop since we got it and I hooked it up.
Now, which games have you played so far?
Let's see, I had a chance to dabble in some Super Punch-Out, some Super Mario World, because that's what my kids wanted to play. So I was showing them how to get to the Secret Star Road. Still apparently remember how to do that, which is awesome.
Nice.
And so I played some of that. Let's see, we played some Kirby's Dream Course with the wife, which was fun. And did I play anything else yet? That might be all I've been able to dabble into yet. When I get a good chunk of time, I'm going to sit down and play some Super Metroid, of course.
Oh yeah,
I can't wait to turn it on. I just love the beginning music on that game. It's just fabulous. So, yeah, but I want to be able to sit down when I know I can just stay there for a little bit and completely immerse myself in the experience. But yeah, those are the ones I played. But I guess I love the menu system. I like that has the little music going while you're playing. You go through, pick the games and everything. I really like the UI and stuff. It's pretty nice, easy to navigate. How about you guys? You guys trying any games yet? I know someone was playing F-Zero.
Man, I tell you, I remember playing F-Zero back in the day, and my eyes were. You and I, Nick, were talking about this just a second ago, but I thought as a racer concept, I'd always played, Outrun and some of the other off-road games where you're a vehicle, and I thought, I like the spaceships and I like hovercrafts and I like this kind of science fiction race. Why didn't everybody ever make that type? And so when F-Zero came out, I was stunned, thinking, here it is, the racer I'm going to play, and I remember it being so cool. And we're at our cousin's house, and they had this kind of big projection TV back in the day, and it was the coolest thing. Seeing it again, but on a high-def TV, it's bringing it all back. But it's more than a nostalgia thing because, as you and I were speaking about, they put the most use of the technology they had at the time to the most value of that they could. It wasn't just we need to make a music track or we need to make this thing blink a little bit faster. They used whatever they could to make a successful game. And even watching these demos play, the music's not annoying. It's really good music. It's fun to listen to. The whole thing is about fun and about the experience.
Yep.
It's more than just the nostalgia.
No, I totally agree. Like it's really cool when you get in there and you start just like kind of like watching the things and listening and I mean they eked every little bit of pop that they could out of what they had to use.
That's actually a question I had on here, which you kind of already answered, but are the games exactly how you remembered back in the day? Like, have they aged gracefully or not? What do you think, Nick?
I think they've aged incredibly well. I mean, when you look at the games that came out for, you know, in the 8-bit era and then especially in the 16-bit era, they set the 16-bit era in particular really set the table, at least on the console side, for everywhere that gaming was going to go. You know, the first 3D experiences on a console game were things like Star Fox and whatnot, like true 3D experiences. You started to see these games that pushed the envelope. You had Mario, you had Metroid, you had all these games with all these secrets and kind of like the go and find things and explore. And I find that because they're challenging, because they're so well made, they're so polished, that if I pop on my Xbox One right now or my PS4, I'm going to have a much higher fidelity experience. But the blueprints at the base of every one of those games, you can pretty much trace back to 8-bit, 16-bit era.
Yeah, easily.
So yeah, it translates great. And I'll tell you what, if you want to have a really good experience, turn the scan lines on. I know that there's a tendency to want to see everything as crystal clear as it can, but I'm loving having the scan lines turned on so it looks like an old CRT monitor. I mean, it takes me right back to being, 13, 14 years old, sitting in my bedroom, playing games like over at your guys' house or my house, and it's fabulous, man. I love it.
You know, one of the things that comes to mind hearing you say that is that Steve and I, as you know, were Sega guys.
Yes.
We're both big Sega guys back in the day. And absolutely love it. I'm proud to say I'm a Sega guy. But I always loved going over to friends' houses to play on their Super Nintendo just because they had a different library of games. And also just the overall look of the Super Nintendo games. It just had that signature SNES look, for lack of a better way of describing it. And so it's a little surreal for me now to look over. Like right now I'm looking over at the TV that we have here in the room, and we've just, if you don't play it, it actually cycles through each one of the games, which I think is really cool. And seeing it in my house, I look over, I'm like, that is a Super Nintendo controller.
Yeah.
Wow. Like this is actually a big moment for myself because I never owned a Nintendo system. Now, technically speaking, the first Nintendo system I bought was the Nintendo Switch. But having said that, looking at this, I mean, I know exactly what you're talking about. I mean, the SNES really did usher in just a
standard.
Yeah, it was like a premium standard of expectation of how games could be. And just looking at it, I remember, like right now, we're like we just went back to the menu, and even the box art was so like undeniably Super Nintendo. Like they just the way the colors popped off the boxes, and just going into the games themselves. I mean, it was just such a well thought out system.
It really
and
was.
I don't know. For me, I'm just excited to actually have something like this where 21 games, that's actually a nice amount to be able to play, and many of which I played at my friends' houses, including yours. I remember like you had your birthday and I'd come over and there'd be a group of friends playing it, like Street Fighter or whatever it was. And so it's crazy to be able to have that opportunity now for me later on in life to be able to revisit this part where it's like, yeah, now I can afford more than just one system.
Yeah, and it's such a great system. And, I sit down and I play these games. I'm looking at as I scroll through the titles and stuff, and I'm reminded yet again, like, there's always checks and balances with anything, right? And, back then you had games, they weren't online games. You sat in your room, you had to play with other people. You actually knew if you wanted to have a multiplayer experience.
You were forced to socialize.
So it's certainly easier to have a social experience nowadays in games, which is probably, I would give that checkbox to modern day gaming. But you look at so many games that come out nowadays because they've got the ability to iterate after it releases. The games that just get put out that are not complete, that it's obvious that they weren't ready to hit the market, but they just got them good enough, threw them out there, and they're like, within the next year we'll have it patched to where we want it to be. Back then, you had to make a quality game. And it had to be solid. If it wasn't solid, it didn't sell because it would get destroyed.
It didn't go to market.
It would get destroyed in pick a gaming magazine we used to read back in the day, Nintendo Power, whatever. Just go on down the line.
Electronic Gaming Monthly.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, EGM.
Electronic Gaming Monthly. I had a subscription to that. It would get destroyed and that thing would never sell. And so the companies were forced to make polished, solid games that right out the box were ready to go and relatively bug-free. And that's kind of lost now. And I sit here and I play these games and I'm like, you know what? I didn't have to wait for this game to get right. It was right from the get-go. And I got to say, maybe I'm just an old man or whatever, but I kind of miss that. And as I go through all these titles and hear the music that's so familiar and everything, I'm telling you, when I set this thing up and I was watching my two daughters play, and they don't know what the heck they're doing, I was smiling so much. My face hurt. Like literally, like my cheek muscles that like hold my smile up and like give me dimples, like it hurt. Because I just couldn't stop smiling. And it's pretty cool to have something like that, all these years later that brings back so many good memories. And as you guys know, I don't have a ton of great memories from my childhood, but this is like one of the key things that I had that resulted in a lot of great memories with you guys and with some of our other friends at the time.
Oh, yeah.
So,
but I think it also shows its quality because your kids are enjoying it just as much as you are. Like they don't need to turn on the PlayStation 4 or the Xbox One to have a good time and the enjoyment that was purposefully created in these games. Like these are games from the 80s and the 90s, and the kids from now 2017 are still finding the enjoyment and the happiness within them.
Yeah,
that's a really astute point. I mean, like that shows that these games, from a gameplay mechanic standpoint, were solid. I mean, like just each one of these, if you have children of today that are willing to pick it up, because obviously graphically speaking, they're dated, but if the fun factor is still there, I mean, that's what matters most. And that's something that I think that I'm looking forward to as well, is that, my daughter, I was gonna say our daughter, it's not our daughter, it's my daughter. My daughter has been expressing interest in watching daddy play games. And just judging from what I'm seeing on the screen right now, I mean, she will absolutely love to be able to play these games. And I think that's one of the magical components to this whole thing, is the fact that having a brand new generation of gamers being introduced to, pretty close to where the gaming really started to, launch off the launch pad and rocket into the stratosphere. You have these games that were back in the day that were 16-bit, and allowing them the opportunity to also forge that foundation as they move into more sophisticated gaming, I think it's terrific.
Yeah, I would agree. And you look at, like, I think the other thing that's kind of interesting is, like my kids have explained to me, they're like, Dad, we like this controller so much better. It's so much easier to hold. It's so much easier to use. It's not as confusing. It's like, sometimes simplicity is better,
That's very true.
It's funny because like I'll sit them down and try and teach my eldest Emma, who's 10, to play Halo, and she really struggles with the two joysticks, the two analog joysticks, and trying to figure all that out. And it's like I'm trying to explain it to her. In the back of my mind, I'm always thinking, you know what? I got to start with something so simple and work my way up to this. So it's almost like going through school. You don't start off with algebra. You start off with simple arithmetic. You learn to count. And like the Nintendo controller and the Sega Master System controller, where it was, kindergarten, first grade math. And then, you got to the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis, and that was like your middle school type stuff. And now we're to where we are now. And it was just interesting listening to them talk about that, because we've kind of been brought up with these game systems, with the advancements, and been able to slowly hone our skills and stuff. Whereas they're just kind of go from like 0 to 1,000. And it's made me kind of sad, because gaming's a big part of my life, and in a lot of ways, my kids, they're interested in it. but the newer systems are complicated for really young kids, and so they get kind of frustrated sometimes because they can't figure out what they're doing, and so I haven't been able to share that experience with them as much. But now with this system, they're kind of getting it. They're kind of getting it kind of fast, and I'm kind of like, okay, this is going to be good. Now they can understand why Dad loves these things so much.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like, I think you touched on something that is very much just head and shoulders in my face is the fact that, like, our generation was very fortunate to have grown up when we did, because we were the generation, like you said, that started out. I mean, like, yeah, maybe we weren't there right when, like, the Atari and Intellivision first came out, or maybe we were too young to start playing it, but we were right there. I mean, like right when the Sega Master System, the Nintendo Entertainment System came out, that sort of thing. And I remember playing, even before that, some of the Atari at a friend's house when I was like in second grade.
Yeah.
But really, I think that you made a really great observation, which is just that as our generation, our specific generation, got older, the systems matured. And you went for like the controllers, for instance. It went from a 2-button scheme to then a 3-button scheme, and then a 4-button scheme, a 6-button scheme. And as we got older and we became more, what's the word? Dexterous? I'm not sure how to.
Ambidextrous. Okay.
Anyway, as we were able to use our fingers better, the controllers themselves also became more sophisticated and more mature, and there was like this stair-step process where you got to literally graduate from one generation to the next, and it was very much coincided with how we were developing as children, going into teenagers, going into young adults, going into old fogies.
Yes, indeed. The gray is real, folks.
It is very much so. But I mean, like what you said too, but just coming full circle and coming back to the 8-bit and 16-bit eras, and seeing where we got our start, and just having that pure love of playing these different titles. It's you can't place a price tag on that. I mean, just the fact that you went out for an SNES Classic and that was $80, it's like, oh, well, yeah, I'll gladly pay that. And especially for someone like myself who has not had the enjoyment of playing these games myself, I'm going to have a lot of fun. I do want to ask you, though, Nick, obviously you had a Super Nintendo back in the day. I believe you probably have an emulator that has some of these classics already on there. What is it about the SNES Classic that just compels you to want to go out and stand in line for 5 hours and purchase this thing? Well, what is it, knowing that you have these titles already available in a different capacity, what is calling you to this?
There's something to be said for playing something the way you remember playing it. And yes, it's true. I've got an emulator on my computer. I have every one of these titles and countless more, including, classics like ActRaiser and Chrono Trigger, and there were some really groundbreaking games at the time that are not on the SNES Classic, and they're there for me to play, and I can hook up an Xbox controller to my computer, and I can play them on a computer with a controller, or I can hook up, just play it off of the keyboard and mouse. But there's something to be said for playing them the way we did when we were kids, which is, with your buddy or your brother, or in my case, my kids or my wife, sitting on the couch with the controller that was made to play the game. Yeah, having a good time, looking over at each other, bumping into each other. It's on your television. You're relaxed. You're laid back. On your couch. If I sit at my computer, I'm in a computer chair. I'm using a controller that wasn't made for those games, so the buttons all feel off, and I have to reprogram the controller to make it kind of work the way the Super Nintendo one would. And and then a lot of times emulators are buggy. Okay, you've got a port. I have a port of Super Mario Kart, which is the other game I played, by the way, on the SNES Classic, and was fabulous. It doesn't ever work right. I can do one part of the game, but if I try and do battle mode or something, it wigs out. And it's hard to play 2 players on a computer desk with the computer monitor. Then you got to pull up a kitchen chair, and that's not comfortable. So there's something about just being able to lay back on that couch, controller in hand, laughing, having a good time. just like we did when we were kids. You know, that's the experience I want. That's why I'm a console gamer and I'm not a PC gamer.
Yeah, psychologically speaking, you mentioned the controller, and I don't know. I always find it just fascinating to look at each system and the controller. The controller is just the conduit from the user to the gaming experience itself, and it's amazing how when you think of just the sheer amount of time you spend on a particular system. And how your hands, like, I mean, I picked up that SNES Classic controller and I was instantly transported back to 1992.
Yep.
And it was just crazy to like think about that. Just holding it, looking at the color palettes, you know, looking at the visual design of the controller, then feeling it, how it feels and whatnot. I mean, it's a no-brainer when I say how there is this very special relationship that the controller has with its system.
Yeah.
And to change it, like you said, like if you have like as an emulator or something like that, there is something that is missing. There is a loss that's there. And it's crazy. Even the button mapping, the way the buttons are laid out, where the D-pad exists, where the thumbsticks are when they came into the existence of game controllers, the triggers and what, you know, just so forth. It really does make for a large part of the overall gaming experience. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, it feels right. There's really no other way to put it. You hold the Super Nintendo Entertainment System controller in your hand, and it feels right. You're taking Mario, and he's got his cape, and you're flying through the air, and you're doing the bounce back and forth to keep him floating up in the air, and it feels right when that controller's in your hand to do it. The muscle memory kicks in immediately. Mm-hmm. And, you know, but when I'm doing it on the computer, it feels wonky. It's just the digital pad. It's different. The buttons, even the way, how far they depress or the shape of them or the positioning, it's wrong. And so it doesn't ever feel right. And so it's nice to sit down and play it and just have that completely classic. I'm 14 years old again. It's 1992 and here we go, you know?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. There's so many good games on here. I'm looking at the screen again. The Super Punch Out. I love that game. And Contra 3. I think it's going to start playing. There's the Konami logo. Yeah, all of that is just it's super fun. Well, did you guys have any last thoughts or comments about the SNES Classic?
I want to say it's just a complete triumph. I love it. I mean, I guess if you wanted to complain, you could complain about a couple titles that could have been added that would have been nice if you wanted. But, I mean, for the amount of titles that are on there, for the price, for having those controllers again, fabulous. I have seen some people complaining about the fact that they actually have to get up and hit the buttons to go to the like menu screens, and I just laugh. I'm like, nostalgia, retro system. We used to have to do this all the time, folks. You used to have to get off your butt to turn your system on and off. You know, so
back in my day.
Oh, I just laugh. I will say this for those people who are planning on getting one or who have gotten one. Just a little tip: the controller cords are very short. You can buy a 2-pack on Amazon.com of controller extensions. It'll stretch those suckers out to about 10 feet. I have them on mine. They just came today, and they work great. They're fabulous. And they'll also, if you have an NES Classic, they apparently will work with as an extension for those controllers as well. So check out that on Amazon.
That's good to know. I know you texted me that, and I meant to order that. The other thing, too, that reminds me, there's a company called 8-Bit Do.
Oh, yeah, the wireless controller.
Yeah, I was going to say the wireless controllers that we have here that we'll use for the drawings are not the 8-Bit Do. They're a different brand. However, there is one on Amazon that's being sold. I think it's like $25, and it's a wireless controller for the SNES Classic Edition. I think they start shipping in December or something like that. But you can tell that they wanted to make the controller look, you know, as authentic as possible. Really, the only thing that's different, it looks like, is that they have the front-facing part of the panel of the controller has more of a kind of a dark gray. Like the dark gray that's used on the controller more as an accent is more prominent. But that's about it. Everything else looks pretty legit. So that's something that you may want to consider getting as well.
Yeah, I like that I have the ones that say Super Nintendo on it. I thought about that. I was like, oh yeah, wireless controllers would be cool. And then I'm like, you know what? I kind of like that. This looks, feels, says everything about it is Super Nintendo. So I think for me, the extensions were what I needed, and I think I'm going to stick with that.
Now, I hope that Sega will somehow. I know that there have been these like third-party attempts, and they just failed miserably because they're not doing it, just in terms of the hardware and the way they present.
Yeah, their emulators.
I would really. They haven't, and it's been unfortunate, but I really do hope that they come out with a Sega Genesis Classic, because that would just be awesome to like put those side by side and just. I can almost like if the systems could talk, they'd be like, yeah. Remember the good old days?
Oh, man. Yeah, no kidding. I mean, then that's why I was so excited about Sonic Mania, which is another game, actually, I've played a little bit here and there in between Destiny. You asked me about what I was playing earlier. That was a good, faithful port. Now, granted, it's not a true port. It's more of a love letter, but it's fabulous. So well done. I'd love to see them make a system that brought back all of the classics, Golden Axe and, Altered Beast, and obviously Sonic and the other great Sega titles that were from back in the day, and put them all in a system like this. That would be fabulous. Speaking of old games that they need to bring into the future, was it Space Harrier? You remember that game? Is that the game where you ran, you were running and you kind of like jump in the air and you're firing the gun and everything's coming at you? We have 3D. Why have they not made a 3D Space Harrier? It's a golden opportunity just waiting out there to be snatched. That's a perfect game for these virtual reality systems.
I remember you talking to me about that a little while back, and I actually added that into the list. We did an episode where we were talking about games we'd like to see for next gen, and I brought that up. I was talking about how there's the Space Harrier game that is just begging for like an augmented reality or virtual reality approach to it, and I'm right with you.
Yeah. But yeah, hopefully they'll eventually get something out there. I mean, you got to think that they're looking at what's going on with Nintendo and the popularity and success. You got to figure there's somebody at Sega, and this is what they need to do. They need to stop licensing it to other people and do it themselves.
Exactly.
Because they could do it and it would be right.
Yeah, totally agree. I think the final thought I have on the whole thing is that I'm really pleased with how retro gaming has made a comeback. There's been this overarching trend, not only with like the Super NES Classic and the NES Classic, but also like if you look on iTunes, for example, or the App Store, whether it's the box art of something or the cover to a song, or if you're in the App Store and you're looking at a game of sorts, there have been a lot of top hit titles that kind of pay homage to more of that retro style gaming that took place during the 8-bit and 16-bit days. And that just, for someone like myself, it just makes me really happy just to see that, once again, the most important aspect to a game is the gameplay, the gameplay mechanic. If you have a lousy gameplay mechanic, it doesn't matter if it's the most beautiful game in the world. It's just not going to be fun to play. And so, yeah, my hat's off to Nintendo. I totally agree. I think that this has been a triumph. I haven't even started playing the game, any of the games yet on the console. But just looking at it, watching Steve play and whatnot, I mean, it's obvious. It's like, yeah, this is something special. So I do believe that is all the time we have for this particular episode of Joygasm. I would like to thank our good buddy Big Baby Moose for joining us. I felt like it was appropriate considering the topic of the day. If you have any questions, comments, or just want to show us some love, you can find us on Twitter at JoygasmTV and Facebook.com/JoygasmTV. In addition to iTunes and Android, you can also listen to our podcast on SoundCloud at SoundCloud.com/JoygasmTV, or search Joygasm TV on YouTube and Twitch, as well now I can say as Joygasm.tv. Go check out the official website. And if you'd like to contribute and subscribe to all of our fun little exclusives and rewards and whatnot, I definitely invite you to go to patreon.com/Joygasm and see what kind of swaggy goodness we got there. So until then, happy gaming.
There you go.
Yep.